Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. So pleased to have in the studio with us our friends from Bayside Community Center. We got Kim Heinle. She is the executive director, joined by her colleague Adam Osorio, associate director of communications. Kim and Adam, how you doing?
Oh, we're great. Yeah.
Good morning. Good morning.
So good. Can't wait to get into this over here. They are near and dear to our hearts. The Classroom of the Future Foundation, which is housed at Linda Vista Innovation Center, which we sort of intruded on your area. You guys have been there for quite a while, but we love being there, and we need to do more partnerships with you and CFF, to say the least. Joined by my colleague, back after about a 2 or 3 month hiatus, and that is the inimitable Kristen Fogel. She is the executive director of San Diego Writers, Inc. It is so good to have you co-host.
It's so good to be here. I've missed you. I've missed this.
The feeling is absolutely mutual. I know you got a question for Kim right out of the gate.
I do. Yeah, I know a bit about Bayside. I heard Jill Hall come up, who's a mutual friend of ours, and so I know Corey through that. But I don't know a ton about Bayside. So maybe you could just start us off with the mission of the organization.
Absolutely. So Bayside is a 93-year-old nonprofit organization located in Linda Vista. Our mission is to empower our diverse community to improve its quality of life through services, education, and advocacy, which is a rather long mission. So at our core are the people, and really we serve as a neighborhood resource, a hub for the Linda Vista community.
Nice. And Kim, so you've been there about 10 years. How long have you been ED now?
4 years.
4 years. Okay. Gosh, she's been gone that long. That's amazing.
I know.
Wow. And what were you doing prior to that at Bayside?
So I started there in programs. I worked initially as a community advocate running our Resident Leadership Academy program, and then I moved into programs management and then into development, and then from there, interim executive director back in 2020.
Nice. That's amazing.
And how long have you been with the organization?
So I've actually been with Bayside 20 years.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, so since I was 18.
You were an infant. I was just going to say, aren't there child labor laws that have been broken? So you've seen a lot of change with Bayside. What are you most proud of?
Yeah, no, I think when you're with an organization for 20 years, and you know this, Drew, you've got the longest running community-centered podcast, you get to see some amazing stories.
That's true.
And during my time at Bayside, I was able to start our academic club, the after-school literacy program. So that's always a highlight, just walking through the neighborhood, seeing students that are now college age calling me Mr. Osorio. Just kind of warms.
You always turn around when they said, "My dad's not here."
Totally.
Yeah, exactly. And so now in this communications role to really amplify the good work that the organization is doing as a whole, that's a special privilege.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to put a pin in kind of the literacy program because that caught my eye as a writer and everything like that. So, did you see a need in the community? How did that kind of start up?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Linda Vista is unique in that we have, some people say, over 27 dialects.
Wow.
Yeah, I couldn't name them all, but there's definitely
just kidding. Next podcast.
There's definitely a linguistic diversity inherent to the neighborhood, and that poses a lot of challenges when we think of where we are as a nation, as a country, and how dominant English is still as a gateway to entry into workforce, higher education. If those literacy skills aren't mastered early on, there's some really tough trajectories that get set for a person before they're even a teenager, right? So having a literacy program that reduces and closes those gaps early in their academic career, absolutely essential.
You know, Kim, as Adam is talking about, one thing that's just been so spot on with Bayside, you guys just absolutely love Linda Vista. It oozes out of you, and the community can see it. They know it. They trust you. They love you. Talk about how important that is.
Oh, Linda Vista is home, and it is a second home to so many of our staff and volunteers who come through the doors. Getting to work with the community there, they're just such a resilient population, and whether that's from a socioeconomic background, we work with so many folks who are low income, migrants, women, children. I mean, some of the most vulnerable populations. And yet the joy that they exude when they come through our doors and are out in the community, engaging with Bayside, engaging with one another, whether we're in the classrooms at the schools or we're at the farmers market or we're in the community garden that we just opened. Just the people of that neighborhood just absolutely are the joy that are in all of us.
Yeah, another thing I wrote down was about the community garden because I'd heard a bit about it from Jill. So
Right.
Can you talk about how that came about, how the need for it arose, and kind of what it's become?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Linda Vista Community Garden used to be housed at Bayside at our property. And in 2017, we went through some building expansions and renovations. And as part of that, we had to uproot the garden. Mm-hmm. And since that day, our team had been working to find a new location. And as we all know, land in San Diego is hard to come by.
Yeah.
And so in 2019, we identified this location, this parcel of land that's located within the Linda Vista Community Park. So it's on city parkland. And we identified it at the time, it was just fallow ground. It was a dumping ground for clippings for the rec center. And we started working with the city of San Diego to say, could we turn this into the garden? And it took a lot of social capital, a lot of financial investment, a lot of political will and community support. And after about 5-6 years of advocating for that, we were able to open the garden in 2024. It's a huge need. It's serving a huge need in the community because Linda Vista is a food insecure neighborhood.
Right.
So we only have access to a handful of grocery stores, and some are located down in Fashion Valley. So you have to take the bus to get there, or you have to go into Claremont to get to Vaughn's. A lot of our community members are transit oriented. And so for them to get to and from is just not feasible. And so this garden really is a systemic solution to a challenge that's been deep rooted in the neighborhood in terms of self-sufficiency, being able to grow your own food, coming together around what is quality food and nutrition. And so we've been thrilled since we opened the garden last year. It's just been a gem in the neighborhood.
Now, do you work with other groups that are tie into this, the San Diego Food Bank, or some of the other areas that are the local markets that we've had on our show, talking about coming up with their very natural types of food resources and so forth?
Yeah, absolutely. We have about half a dozen partners that are actually donating fresh produce.
Okay.
And we give that away weekly at our emergency food distribution. This last year, we increased the amount of fresh produce given away with our emergency boxes of food, the canned goods, the dry goods. We actually increased the amount of fresh produce. I think it was like 48,000 pounds.
Yeah, we gave out last year almost 48,000 pounds, 49,000 pounds of fresh produce.
Yeah, and I think what's important about that, and we talk about this quite a bit when we have groups on, whether it's the local farms, certainly food bank, chatting with our good friends at like Meals on Wheels and all that business. Healthy food is absolutely critical in those areas that may be underrepresented. I'm preaching to the congregation because you know that, and there's a huge issue in some of those underrepresented areas with obesity and not eating healthy. Talk about how important that is for that community.
Well, yeah. If I could touch back to the partnerships too, that's definitely an important part. But what we see is absolutely essential to the solution is actually growing the food locally. The history of Linda Vista as a neighborhood was actually designed with these big open plots in the middle of the housing developments for the original homeowners to actually grow their own food.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was called a garden city model. Obviously, that wasn't able to be sustained for too much past a couple decades. But really what happened in Linda Vista was what we call a perfect storm to create a food desert over time. And so creating growing spaces within the neighborhood, this community garden is actually the third that we've helped develop in Linda Vista. This is allowing that fresh produce to be developed internally, and we don't have to rely on the donations from outside of the city quite as much. So the partnerships are a key point, but growing the produce locally absolutely essential.
Yeah, we come back from break. Kim and Ed want to talk a little bit more about that. You folks are a change maker. Our good friend Jilly Bean Hall, who known better as Jill Hall, very award-winning author, works very closely with Kristen, of course, on a variety of things.
And she has a big birthday today, so
she does. Happy birthday, Jill!
Yeah. I'm going to go see her right after this. Yes, 25. Yes,
25.
Yeah,
okay.
Good for her.
Yeah, absolutely. Jill and I worked together at San Diego Unified. Hard to believe it's almost 40 years ago. We were infants ourselves, by the way, Adam, on that. But when we come back from break, we want to talk a little bit more about the great, grant raising and grant making and fundraising you've done. Kim, Jill brags about you every 5 seconds on that. And listen, it has really done quite a bit. You mentioned earlier, Adam, when you have 27 different languages, it's not the easiest thing to navigate. And then you talked about partnerships, and maybe both you guys can talk about what is your relationship with USD, which is right down the road, and the County Office of Education. Francis Parker right next door as well, and all the schools, and chat about that. And as Adam knows, we always save time in the second half of the interview. What can our listeners do to support your efforts? When we return with our friends from Bayside Community Center, Kim Heinle, she's the executive director, joined by the associate director of communications, Adam Osorio. I'm Drew Schlosberg. As you're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, we are the nation's longest running community podcast. We're in our 19th year, brought to you by the amazing folks at Mission Fed Credit Union. More than 6 decades of doing great things in San Diego County, whether it's food insecurity, whether it's literacy, whether it's art, you name it, they're with us shoulder to shoulder, and we will be right back.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. Honored to have in the studio with us today our friends from Bayside Community Center. We got Kim Heinle, Executive Director, joined by her colleague, Adam Osorio, Associate Director of Communications, with my colleague back after a little bit of a hiatus, my co-host, Kristen Fogel, the Executive Director of San Diego Writers, Inc. Before I turn it over to you with Kim, which I know, and Kristen, which has a whole bunch of questions for you, Kim and Adam as well. Kim, you've done a great job fundraising and getting grants and working with Adam and the whole team. What are some of the amazing things you were able to do with this great fundraising?
So much of what we've been able to do in the past couple of years, I think, as we've really stabilized, has been able to adapt to the community needs. That starts back during the pandemic, when just overnight we all had to change on a dime. And having the type of fundraising in the bank and the stability and the buy-in from our funders and our donors and the foundations who just trust us to do the work and to do it without so often the restrictions that come with fundraising and grants, that has really allowed us to be adaptable to the community's needs. So that's included, stabilizing our food distributions, doubling our food distribution size to meet the increased demand. Last year, our case management, we saw over 200 people for case management alone. That allows us to add more hours to our staff's time to be able to meet that demand.
Nice.
Increase our senior lunch program. Our seniors have come back from the pandemic with a vengeance. It's amazing. You walk into our senior lunch program, we're pushing 50 people at this point. A couple years ago, that was 20, 25. And now we've got a wait list. When seniors come, they have to sit and wait until a space opens up. The funding we've been able to secure has really allowed us to adapt to that type of demand that we're seeing more and more of. And I think that we're going to see a continued increase in the years to come.
Right. What's our relationship with USD and the county office?
And the other schools,
Classroom of the Future, Linda Vista Innovation Center, Francis Parker, the whole world for that matter.
Oh, we are so grateful to be on we call it the corridor of education, right? You can go from kindergarten to PhD along Linda Vista Road. And that goes all the way from the foothills down with USD up to Mesa College. And we celebrate all and work with all of the different institutions there. And that includes our after-school program at the Title I schools in the neighborhood to the charter schools that we work with. Empower Language Academy, for example. Their director, Demi Brown, has been on our board of directors now for 8 years. She's our secretary, fabulous. We work with Francis Parker closely and their community engagement team. Montgomery Middle School, we host our after-school garden therapy program there. All the way up to Kearney High School, and then into Mesa College. What a beautiful connection to have the partnerships with Mesa and USD bookending the community perimeter. And knowing that, Mesa serves on one end in the sense for the community and an accessibility factor. And then you've got USD, just this incredible institution on the other end who we've worked so closely with now for decades. I mean, our partnership with the School of Nursing has dated back 30, almost 40 years.
Nice. Did you work with Souls at all?
Oh, we do. Yeah, absolutely.
I was on a charter member of their advisory board when Paula Cordero.
The house that Paula built.
100%. And now she's across the street at the Joan Kroc Peace and Justice Center. Kristen, other questions you have for our friends?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, what other programs haven't we touched about, or what do other people need to know about the incredible work that you do?
One thing I would say is the partnerships, the collaboration. Bayside is built on collaboration. We really, at the core of who we are, is recognizing that we are not everything. I think that we don't want to be everything. There are so many good institutions that we work with that we can complement each other with. And, just an example of that, I mean, we were just talking about education and what we do to empower our community through education. So whether that's our after-school program or it's working with our community members through our Resident Leadership Academy to teach them how to do the good work. And that's through our partnership with Community Health Improvement Partners. We've worked very closely with the University of San Diego to support our after-school program and our community garden. Now that that's up and running. I mean, you name it, like you look in the neighborhood and you can see the different institutions, Access Inc., the other community center down the road, the library, the rec center, just across the board. Any institution we can work with in the neighborhood. Advancing Students Forward is another fabulous partner that we have. They've allowed us to grow a garden on their property in the neighborhood and make it accessible to the community. So we really just value, I think, the collaboration and cooperation we can with all the institutions.
Sorry, Drew. Yeah, I was just going to say, I think like as a nonprofit professional, that's about half of what I do is shout out the good work of other people, because people are like, why don't you create that? And I'm like, well, actually, there are all these great other places that you can go to do things. I guess that being said, though, I'm curious, are there other partnerships you're kind of looking for, maybe in some areas that you're like, oh gosh, I wish we had that, in case anybody's listening?
Well, there is someone listening, I hope. So,
in case there are specific, nonprofits out there or community partners that maybe you're like, oh gosh, I wish we could get more into this area.
I think one area that we're really excited about is our community garden resource program. Essentially, what we're looking to do is capture lightning in a bottle. What we've done with this most recent community garden is make use of a 10-year-old city policy that actually allows for the use of Parks and Rec land for community gardens. Now, I point out that that's a 10-year policy because we're the first ones to do it. So it's not an easy, not easy waters to navigate, right?
Right.
But because of the partnerships, the trust we've built with these other, not only elected officials, but also other nonprofits, we've been able to find a successful way through. And what we want to do is put that into a playbook of sorts for other communities of need to use. So the idea is that any other neighborhood that's facing food insecurity similar to Linda Vista can learn from the steps we've taken and then put that in action in their own neighborhoods.
No, that's great. We're
Absolutely.
chatting with our friends from the Bayside Community Center, Kim Heinle, Executive Director, joined by Adam Osorio, Associate Director of Communications. I'm Drew Schlosberg. Listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union with my co-host, Kristen Fogel, Executive Director of San Diego Writers, Inc. You've given us so much information that to make this plea that would love to have you folks come back on sooner than later and bring in, one or two of these partners you've talked about. Would love to have someone who's benefited from the after-school program.
Or that garden, that fabulous garden, yeah.
I mean, there's so much. We pretty much do 10 weeks of shows here and never even come close to all those things you're doing. We'd love to have kids on. And so we've had a variety of students that somehow have worked with the schools to pull their kids so they could be on the podcast. So think about that as well in that vein, because all that does is continue to build all the great work you're already doing. I'll start with you on this, Adam, and then pivot over to you, Kim. What final comments do you have?
Well, first, thank you so much for not just having us, but for doing this show. The idea that there's media that spotlights the work of communities is so important and can't be overstated. So
thank you.
Thank you, Drew. And thank you for giving us an opportunity to talk about what we love. That's our neighborhood. That's our neighbors here in Linda Vista.
And we're just getting started. Kim, how about you?
In addition to just the gratitude for being on here, I think, just a reminder to our listeners that this neighborhood matters and times are changing and things are going to get tough. And we know that the cost of living, it just continues to have a critical impact on neighborhoods like Linda Vista. Last year, 90% of our social service recipients were extremely low income.
Right. They're
the most vulnerable among us, and just keep neighborhoods like Linda Vista on your mind and in your hearts, because things are changing, and we know, with the continued development of housing, et cetera, as it comes into neighborhoods, we're seeing the displacement of our residents, and we've got a tall order ahead of us as we work to keep our neighbors there, but also to adapt with the changing times too, because change is a good thing. So just keeping in mind neighborhoods like Linda Vista and City Heights and Barrio Logan and those that I think are often overlooked sometimes when we consider community.
Well, this is why we do this show, as Adam was saying, and you can't talk about it enough. And you have to continually talk about it and beat that drum. It's all good stuff. It's great for us. Those communities like Linda Vista and Logan Heights, keep on going down the list on this, are just so critical for the fabric of this unbelievable county we live in.
Exactly.
And, the amount of culture that they bring in and thought and brains and innovative thinking that comes from, and one last comment. I'm so glad that you brought up seniors. We love focusing on the seniors on our show here. We had the Senior Community Foundation on, that Bob Kelly had started, of course. And as we all know, and sadly, the largest growing group of homeless are seniors, and you guys know this, and food insecure and all that. So thank you for what you're doing in that area. So that's another one you can add to the group that you can do this. Wishing you just nothing but great success. I'll make sure when we're visiting our building in Linda Vista with our CFF friends and everybody else there, I knock on the door and we'll have you over there. And thank you so much, Kim and Adam, for all the great work you do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you both.
My pleasure. We've been having a great conversation with our friends in Bayside Community Center. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. Thank you, as always, Kristen Fogel, being a great co-host, and we hope you enjoyed the interview.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.